big star on his chest. Out from all of the rest. Fastest gun in the West. Yippee-yi-yo, Kanye, riding around your way. Here comes quick draw with draw. The highfalutinist, fastest shootingest cowboy you ever saw. That's quick draw with draw.
All right, so what was turning into a slow news week sure did pick up late yesterday afternoon with this affidavit that was released by David Humphreys, major political Republican donor. You might not know the name, but anyone inside the political circle certainly knows the name, and he is considered one of the big boys, one of the giants. He has given hundreds of thousands of dollars to political campaigns. He has given, somebody told me that he hands out $25,000 checks like we hand out pieces of gum. This man is well respected, one of the most respected Republican donors out there. Released an affidavit yesterday saying, among other things, and let me read for you the affidavit, and then let's sort of take a step back, take a giant deep breath, and sort of regroup and find out where we are, because we are in a bizarre place in this state with the Republican Party, and what's going on in the Republican Party. And even if you don't care, well, if you care about politics and you're a Democrat, you're watching this like this is the greatest thing that's happened to the Democratic Party in this state in years. If you're a Republican, you're either in the midst of fighting for your party leader's job, which, why would he hold on to this job? Well, anyway, we'll get to all of that. Let me get to the affidavit, because it's sort of out there, but here's what a major Republican donor signed as an affidavit. What is an affidavit? An affidavit says, under penalty of perjury, this is the truth. This is a legal document. And he attests to, this is like putting your right hand on the Bible and saying, repeat after me. This is as ironclad as it gets. If he is lying, he's going to jail. Here's what it says. David C. Humphreys, on or about November 20, and I'm going to skip around. I'll make it more radio reader friendly, listener friendly, if you will. On November 24th, 2014, John Hancock came to my office in Joplin, Missouri. I understood Hancock's purpose for the meeting was an attempt to raise money for developing a modern Missouri Republican Party. In the course of our conversation, Mr. Hancock made what were, in my opinion, negative comments about State Auditor Tom Schweich. Although I do not recall the exact words Mr. Hancock used, he said words to the effect, quote, well, you know Tom Schweich is Jewish. The meaning I took from Mr. Hancock's statement and tone of his comments was clear. He, Tom Schweich, is Jewish, in case you didn't know, and that being Jewish is a negative attribute for Tom Schweich's gubernatorial race. Immediately after the meeting ended, I walked into an associate's office and said to her words to the effect, I just finished a meeting with John Hancock. I am not going to tell you why, and I'm not going to tell you what he said, but I do not want us giving Hancock any money for any reason. That is the affidavit. Now, let's get timeline here, because timeline's important. Last week, John Hancock, the head of the Republican Party, was just elected. Last week, he said he released emails, an email conversation he had with Senator Danforth that was dated November 14th, 10 days before this affidavit says this conversation took place. So 10 days before, Senator Danforth had an email exchange with John Hancock in which John Hancock says that after Senator Danforth set me straight on Tom Schweich's religion, he's not Jewish, and I was telling people he was Jewish, even though I may have said he was Jewish. I don't remember, but if I did say it, I didn't say it in a malicious way, and I can't remember who I said it to. Now he's saying, after Danforth on November 14th told me he was not Jewish, I stopped telling people he was Jewish. Now you have an affidavit from a prominent Republican donor saying he told me 10 days later. Now, John Hancock has categorically denied that conversation took place. John Hancock has admitted to Joe Mannies and I believe an Associated Press reporter that he had 2 meetings with David Humphreys, one in September and one in November. And he says, maybe I mentioned something in September, but I know I didn't mention anything in November because it was after Danforth told me he wasn't Jewish. So he's basically calling, you have the head of the Republican Party in Missouri calling one of the largest donors in the state of Missouri a liar. Not only a liar, but you signed an affidavit, you're a liar. This isn't a no. He's calling it not accurate. Now, there was another person in the room. This guy's name is Paul Moulton, I believe, or Mouton. And he's a new character on the scene. He has said in a brief phone interview, I want to say with Joe Mannies or maybe the Associated Press, he said that he was in the room and he did not hear this conversation. Now, I'd like to certainly ask him more questions because was this we've all been in three-way conversations in which 2 people talk on the side, or somebody takes a text, or somebody has a phone call, or somebody gets a cup of coffee, or somebody goes to the bathroom, or you're looking out the window and, it turns out, hey, you know what? Tom Schweik's Jewish. Okay, great. Yeah. So Catherine Hanway's this and what about this? And, hey, Tom Schweik's Jewish. What'd you say? Never mind. It was, right? So we've certainly been in a 3-way conversation where the third person doesn't hear what I'm talking to the second person about, right? How many times have you been in a meeting where you whisper something to the guy next to you? So I believe this Paul Mouton. Why would I not? I have no reason not to believe him. He says he didn't hear it. Okay, fine. I also believe a man who's a lawyer, who's a multi-billionaire, who's given all sorts of money to the party, has no reason to lie, signs an affidavit saying he told me, and he told me in a negative way. So John Hancock has now denied it. Now, let's go back for a second. By the way, here are the phone numbers, 314-969-KTRS, 1-888-550-KTRS, or star KTRS. I know John Hancock has his people lined up to sort of defend himself, so please feel free to call and try and defend the man. And anybody else who's not affiliated with anything, who just has an opinion, we'd certainly like to hear from you as well. Now, let's take this from the beginning. Tom Schweich, sitting auditor, was going to call a news conference and bring forward a number of people, 1, 2, 3 people, I don't know, but a number of people who are going to come forward and corroborate that John Hancock was going around telling people in the state he was Jewish in a negative way. Now, what's a negative way? That's really sort of a nebulous term, right? I'm going to tell people you're Jewish, but in a positive way. Okay, fine. You're Jewish. Talking about the Jewish vote. Can you get out the Jewish vote? Is the Christian vote not going to vote for the Jewish vote? And so on and so forth. And what about the black vote? And the Latino vote? And the Democratic vote? And the woman vote? And so these political operatives talk in these terms. What about the black vote? What about the Latino vote? What about the gay vote? What about this vote? How big is the female vote? What about the Jewish vote? Well, Tom Schweik's Jewish. Oh, Tom Schweik's Jewish. Oh, that's not going to help him in the primary. Oh, you know what I'm saying? The man's Jewish. It's one thing to talk that way about a candidate, breaking down the individual assessment of the groups of voters. Okay? Well, the guy's black. He's going to do well in North County. Well, the guy's black. He's probably going to take home the black vote in the city of St. Louis. Well, he's a black guy, but he's more the white black guy. That whole campaign when there were 2 African Americans running for the mayor of St. Louis, right? Oh, hey, he's a black guy, but he's going to get the white vote. A lot of black people think he's a white guy, right? That's offensive on 800 levels. But those are conversations that are being had, right? I get that. So if you're talking about someone's religion in terms of the vote and are Christian conservatives going to vote for a Jewish man? Or so that's a vote, and it's it's not very happy. It's not very, well, how should I say that? It's not our highest call, but it happens, and that's a reality, and you have to deal with it. However, Tom Schweich is not Jewish. So you're going around, admittingly, John Hancock, having conversations with people. Admittingly, I may have told people he was Jewish, but in a non-condescending way, in a factual debate, how is the vote going to shape up way, except for the fact that the man wasn't Jewish. Oh, I didn't know he wasn't Jewish. You worked for the man. Your opposition research for 30 years. You wanted to be the head of the party. How did you not know this man wasn't Jewish? And if you didn't know he was Jewish, why did you think he was Jewish? What was it that made you believe the man was Jewish? You knew the man's grandfather was Jewish? If the man's grandfather was Jewish, if you were smart enough and insightful enough and inside enough to know the man's grandfather was Jewish, then you were smart enough and inside enough to know that the man wasn't Jewish.
But isn't it even easier for him to know where he currently goes to church?
He worked for the man.
Yeah.
Right, he worked for the man.
That as even easier than going back into his grandfather's history, knowing that where he goes every Sunday to Mass is right down the street in Clayton.
Right.
That's even more public knowledge.
It's just, I understand everyone is defending their own turf. And, you've got people who are, who feel loyal to John Hancock, so they're going to defend the guy to the hilt. Will people stop saying, I've known the man for 30 years. I've known the man for 20 years. I've never known him to be anti-Semitic. You know what? I've known O.J. Simpson for 30 years. Never once did O.J. Simpson kill my wife. It is the dumbest thing in the world to say. Just because he never said to somebody an anti-Semitic comment in the world doesn't mean the man didn't say what he is now accused of saying. That's the insidious thing of a whisper campaign, and that's the insidious thing of dealing with racial and religious bigotry, is that you only use it when you need it, especially as a political operative. So you're going to sit here and tell me that a political operative didn't use whatever he had in his arsenal, and he became so desensitized to people's feelings and normal decency and responsibility, and saying, you know what, there are certain things I will not do as a political operative. I will not do this. I will not do that. And then, right? So the man became so desensitized that he doesn't even himself realize that what he is accused of doing by these people is insensitive. Is he anti-Semitic? I doubt it. Did he say things that were anti-Semitic? Probably. And when we come back, they keep saying there's no evidence. Well, I'm going to go through a litany of no evidence against John Hancock, who keeps saying all these people who have come forward have misremembered the conversation. At some point, and remember, he's the man who said, I don't remember who I said it to, but I can certainly tell you I didn't say it to any of these 6 people who have heard me say this or heard me tell somebody I said it. 923 here, Big 550 KTRS. We'll also get some phone calls, 314-969-KTRS, 1-888-550-KTRS, or star KTRS. The Low T Institute of St. Louis, ladies and gentlemen, Low T.